Sports Tonight is proudly brought to you by Gatorade.
In Sports Tonight, Friday, January 14. From terrible to terrific, an age of torment all but over. Now for Sampras. Steffi Graf opening up before the Open.
People have been very nice and kind to me, and that's just why I like to come back.
The Vicks and the Bulls evenly poised at the Gabba. And some of the country's best Ironmen fall to the unpredictable waters of Portsea. Good evening and welcome. I'm Bill Woods, and tonight, World Series cricket featuring the Kiwis and South Africa from Perth as Alan Border's boys prepare for Sunday's match against South Africa. The Shield match from the Gabba, Ironman champion Guy Andrews fails to master the unpredictable waters off Portsea in Victoria. We've got Mark Reed's best bet and a batsman named Jordan. But first up, New South Wales Open tennis. Argentina's Gabriela Sabatini powered into tomorrow's women's singles semi-finals, also to feature Americans Mary Jo Fernandez, a straight sets winner over compatriot Zina Garrison-Jackson, Patty Fendick, who beat Italy's Linda Ferrando, and Japan's Kamiko Date, an upset winner over #1 seed Conchita Martinez. In the men's semi-finals, Pete Sampras and Devon Lendl disposed of Peter Korda and Todd Martin.
It was billed as the match of the week. The world #1, Pete Sampras, facing Grand Slam Cup winner Peter Korda. The prize, a spot in the final. An uninvited guest took centre stage, though, a swirling wind playing havoc with the balls. 4 of the first 5 service games ending in breaks.
Oh, gee, he was unlucky, wasn't he? I can't believe it.
Coming to terms with the conditions first, Sampras, the top seed, rediscovering his consistent game to take the first set 6-3.
And he hasn't held it here.
Korda was showing glimpses of his Grand Slam Cup form.
Oh, top point.
But they were just that, glimpses. Unable to overcome the wind, the 5th seed surrendered in 2 sets. Sampras' title defence on target.
Double followed match point. So
in the other semi-final, Ivan Lendl found a way to beat the wind. Up against fellow American Todd Martin, Lendl's hunger was back, but his opponent was ducking for cover. With his big serve working, it was the Lendl of old on centre court. Intent on returning to the top 10, he was precise and devastating, advancing to the final in just an hour and 13 minutes.
stranded.
The women's quarterfinals provided the big upset. Japan's Kamiko Date overwhelming top seed Conchita Martinez 6-3, 6-love.
Number 5 women's seed has beaten the favourite.
Gabriela Sabatini is now favourite for the title. She defeated an inconsistent Barbara Rittner in straight sets.
Well, both the men's and women's world #1s are now in Australia with the arrival in Melbourne of Steffi Graf. She's at unbackable odds to win the women's singles at the Ford Australian Open, which starts at Flinders Park Monday.
If Steffi Graf is worried about her security after last year's stabbing of Monica Seles, she certainly wasn't showing it today. Everyone wanted a word and autograph from the world #1, and she was only too happy to oblige.
No, it's not a concern of mine. I mean, you can't keep worrying all your life about what could happen. I think that's not the way you can live.
Graf is still painfully aware of the absence of Seles, but amazingly says her motivation for continuing in the game is still the same.
I've won all the tournaments. I've done it all. The only thing is I still love the game. I just want to get better on it.
Graf loves coming to Australia, even when she has to put up with football legend Ted Whitten, who was lending a hand at her clothes launch today. But she knows regaining her title won't be easy.
And it's very difficult if the first tournament is a Grand Slam. I mean, you really want to show off the best that you can.
And after today's draw at Flinders Park, Graf looks headed for a second-round showdown with Australia's Nicole Provis. Wally Masua will have a tough battle against 12-seeded Alexander Volkov, while Mark Woodford meets Andrei Cherkasov. But spare a thought for 20-year-old Queensland wildcard entrant Josh Eagle. His opponent, world #1, Pete Sampras.
Just try and play good tennis and see what happens. I mean, you never know what can happen in tennis these days.
Good luck, Josh. Good attitude too. Well, the Australian team has arrived in Perth for Sunday's showdown with South Africa. Captain Alan Border is faced with a batting dilemma, whether to use Steve Waugh or hometown hero Damien Martin.
The Australian team arrived in Perth today on a mission to get their form back on track, starting with Sunday's match against South Africa. Although the Aussies sit on top of the World Series table, Border hasn't been impressed with his side's one-day performances.
Well, we've been a little bit up and down with our one-day cricket this year, and it's important just that we get things settled with the big games coming up. So it is very important that we play good cricket.
Eager to get down to business, the Aussies headed straight for the Wacker practice nets, where they attracted a large group of fans. Looking to bolster his batting strength, Border is keen to have Steve Waugh back in the lineup. But whether that's at the cost of WA batsman Damien Martin is yet to be decided.
Mark Waugh's got a sore finger, and it's just causing him a few problems. So that might be give us the option to play Stephen and Damien if Mark sits out.
And very shortly we'll have the result of that South Africa-New Zealand match. I can tell you one thing, the South Africans were cruising, but we'll bring you that shortly. In the meantime, Queensland has taken first innings points in the Shield match at the Gabba. Rookie Andrew Bickle picked up a 4-wicket haul along with Mike Kasprowicz to send the Vicks crashing to a total of 272.
After the setback late yesterday, the Victorians went about business in a steady but sure manner in the first half hour today. Phillips and Allardyce took the score past 50, although both did survive confident shouts from Carl Rackerman. Allardyce had a real let-off just after lunch when second put down this chance off Bickle. Phillips, though, no such luck. He went for 47 with the score at 132. Allardyce fell just 14 short of his century, an LBW victim of Carl Rackerman's. Skipper Darren Ramshaw started confidently, but when Kasprowicz replaced Rackerman, he immediately claimed Hodges' scalp for 16. And Harvey on 6 followed in almost identical circumstances. Victoria were 5 for 176. Donomaid and Ramshaw then steadied the ship, taking the score past the 200. Their partnership of 64 ended when Ramshaw on 41 became Kasprowicz's 4th victim. And then Bickle and Matt Hayden combined to get rid of Berry as the Victorians lost their 7th wicket for 247.
Welcome back, and now to that World Series cricket match in Perth. South Africa cruised towards a very easy win over New Zealand tonight. They were finished up with 5 for 151, a quite comfortable win by 5 wickets, of course. They did have the added task, though, of improving their series run rate.
Andrew Jones couldn't make it through the first over, LBW to Donald. Brian Young went in the 4th, but Mark Greatbatch got a reprieve.
Who's going to catch this one? It's miles in the air. Hansi Cronje wants it. Will he get it? Oh, he's dropped it! I cannot believe it.
Greatbatch looked as though he'd capitalise on the lucky break.
He's got a beauty. It's going all the way over cover. That's 6.
But went for 16. New Zealand 3 for 45. Shane Thompson had gone for a duck when in the 18th captain Ken Rutherford out bowled McMillan. New Zealand 5 for 58. Chris Cairns added life and runs, 3 fours in 1 over.
Oh, he's hit that beautifully way down towards square leg.
But after 29 off the same number of balls...
Oh, and is there a big appeal? Yes, he's got him. He's struck.
Tony Blaine got New Zealand to the 100.
Brings up the 100 for New Zealand.
He'd hit 32 when a de Villiers throw found the wicket. The remaining 3 managed a further 17. New Zealand all out for 150 in the 45th over. The Kirsten brothers up on the hard and fast Wacker pitch that had devastated the New Zealanders, notching up the 4s.
That's 4.
Peter struggling with his leg injury, then Gary with his own problem.
That's a nasty one on the helmet.
He stayed, the runs climbed, and de Villiers added the humour, with a toy car taking drinks and wickets. Gary the first to go in the 19th over, South Africa 1 for 80.
Oh yes, is that out? Yes, I think he is. Good catch too.
Cronje started to lift the run rate, then Peter Kirsten copped it as his brother had before. He got his 50, then went. The next cricketer to leave the field, Mark Greatbatch, with a knee injury. And more bad news for the Kiwis.
It's wide. And that's it. A very good victory.
Yeah, what a way to go too with that wide. Well, defending Uncle Toby's Ironman champion Guy Andrews has been eliminated from round 5 at Portsea. The top seed out in today's semi-finals. Terry Kennedy reports conditions were treacherous.
Semi-final number 1 and the ski was first up. The huge swell causing havoc even with the big names. Jonathan Crowe and defending champion Guy Andrews were both dumped. Crowe recovered while Andrews was unable to make up the lost ground. Boys were being tossed around like corks in the ocean, while Trevor Hendy led the field home, riding side saddle. Veteran Hayden Reese got the better of Hendy on the swim and then stretched his advantage on the board to streak away. Hendy qualified second, while Andrews, Murray Cox and Craig Riddington all missed out. Semi-final number 2 featured the likes of Guy Leach and Olympic kayak champion Clint Robinson, and once again Mother Nature had her say. The ski was a touch less dramatic for the second race, with Robinson, Leach and Dwayne Tyes leading the way through the break. Leach lost his ski on the way in, but was close enough to make it safely to shore. Andy Mickle was one of the big movers on the swim leg, while Clint Robinson lost his board and all hope on the final leg. Dwayne Tyes an impressive winner, while Craig Hummer was just happy to qualify. Also safely through, Andy Mickle, Guy Leach and Michael King. Missing out, Dave Foister and Clint Robinson. It's just the beginning for the remaining 20 Ironmen. They'll do it all again tomorrow over 3 25-minute races.
And all the Uncle Toby's Ironman action can be seen exclusively here on 10 Sunday afternoon. Well, let's have a look at the baseball scores now from tonight's games around Australia. I know the Sydney Blues were doing very well. In fact, they finished up with a double over the Adelaide Giants. Brisbane Bandits beat Canberra Bushrangers. Melbourne Monarchs were too good for East Coast. And we haven't got the second game results there, but I can tell you Sydney did do a double tonight. OK, Rugby League, and the Canberra Raiders are set to cut international winger Sean Hoppe for the coming season if he signs for the new Auckland team for 1995. Meanwhile, the club has a new recruit, a rookie, all the way from Los Angeles. His name is Keldon Alexander.
The former UCLA college gridiron player was handed a tough ask today by the Raiders training staff. Just 3 days off the plane from Los Angeles, he was lined up with the top grades for a 2-hour running session. Having only decided 3 weeks ago to come to Australia to try and crack a rugby league spot, he was obviously well down on conditioning compared to the Raiders who've been back in work for the past 2.5 months.
Physically, he's certainly got the ability to play outside back, so, you know, but he's not played a game of rugby league yet, Peter, so we'll wait and see.
Keldon Alexander must have taken a leaf out of Noah Ndruku's media sidestepping book as he avoided all journalists after training. All he'd say was that he wants to play a game of league first before he speaks with the press, and that match will be in 10 days' time at Seaford Oval, Queanbeyan. The Raiders session also featured comeback half Ricky Stewart. He looked good in his second serious run since smashing his ankle late last season.
It's great. I'm just trying to get a little bit of conditioning back now and get a bit of strength and flexibility back in the leg, and everything's going really well. I'm really happy with it.
Stewart is still planning to make his comeback in the first round of the competition, although he does want to play at least half a trial match before his real test.
To rugby, and the annual Five Nations Championship gets underway this weekend. Our expert Russell Fairfax takes a look at the opening matches. Defending champions France at home to the Irish, and Scotland travels to Cardiff Arms Park to take on Wales.
With restored credibility on their side from winning last year's Five Nations Championship, the French will